I don't know if I've been having bad luck with this, but I'm going to try to read this meditation from today, the 29th day of April, commemorating this as quickly as I can. Well, not as quickly as I can, but in less than 9 minutes, because it seems that at 9 minutes, for some reason, I'm getting disconnected or timed out, and I really want to record this morning because I have quite a busy day ahead of me, and I feel that I want to capture before I don't want to rush later. So let's see if I can get it in. So continuing on with the story of Heraclitus, and that's been recounted to us by Aristotle through Heidegger and his letter on humanism, and this is from page 110 and 111 from Being and Learning. What kind of dwelling is the dwelling of the sage? And why is it the comportment of the evocative speaker? This is the key question that appears in this story. The story takes us into the abode of the sage. We're carried into this abode by the sage's saying, and we ask, what is evocative about this saying? How does it affect our transportation into the dwelling of the sage? To explore the evocative quality of the saying, we begin by recalling the saying is an invitation, a calling out to the strangers. The story revolves around Heraclitus' fragment, Ethos anthropoi daimon. The familiar abode for man is the open region for the presencing of God, the unfamiliar one, unquote. To say revolve is not the best way to describe the place of this fragment. We should rather say the story is carried forward by the fragment. It is moved by the fragment, which is absent from the story but present within Heraclitus' invitation, for hereto the gods are present. If we push this point enough, we ultimately concern ourselves with Aristotle's use of the story. When we push in this way, we attempt to find the location where we can hear the allegorical and receive the philosophical as poetic. If we hear Aristotle as recounting a story, then we place ourselves in the dwelling of the one who is able to receive the poetic saying of the philosopher. Aristotle's way of telling the story is thus heard as a way of drawing his attention, our attention, to the evocative power of Heraclitus' fragment. Our transportation into the abode of the sage is facilitated by the illustrative quality of the parable. The transportation or passage is made possible by the allegorical way the event is offered. If not for Aristotle's recollection, no transportation. He draws our attention to what Heraclitus has said, which is the crux of the matter, by framing the saying as a legend. Quote, the story is told of something Heraclitus said to some strangers who wanted to come visit him. The story is told. With this qualifier, Aristotle has attempted to open up the reader-listener to the speculative, the interpretive. I am recounting a tale, Aristotle is saying, and with this statement he deliberately disrupts the propositional logic that has been the way of his work. He disrupts the ordinary or usual way of his own proceeding, and jolts his reader, listener, into a mode of attention. We are compelled to listen in a unique way, and in doing this, Aristotle is disclosing the truth of poesis, the truth of meaning-making, that, as we will discuss below, is closer to thinking than the propositional truth offered by cognition. If this thinking gets underway when the ordinary activities of life, our expectations, are disrupted, then Aristotle's telling has captured the essence of the event, the confounding of expectations, the disruption of the ordinary, which transports the strangers into the dwelling of the sage. If the tale is offered and received as a story, then we, like Heraclitus' visitors, are carried beyond ourselves and into the abode of the sage. If his telling captures the essence of the event, Aristotle will have succeeded in transporting us into the abode of the sage, which we will soon discover is a poetic dwelling. The story is told of something Heraclitus said to some strangers. We're drawn immediately to the something Heraclitus said, and to those to whom he said it, some strangers. The strangers are the first-time visitors, and this is crucial, for only one who is other to the abode of the sage will pass into the dwelling as one who is ready and capable to receive the evocative saying. This is akin to the first turning of the cave dweller. The originary encounter with evocative speech is formative. It has a singularly important and lasting effect. These visitors are strangers, but they only become aware of their status when they encounter Heraclitus warming himself by the stove. The encounter with Heraclitus confounds them, and they forget this was precisely what they had anticipated and hoped for in visiting the sage. They sought a visit with Heraclitus, the thinker, yet did not know fully what this entailed, although they certainly anticipated an encounter with something extraordinary. They are surprised and made anxious by his comportment as an ordinary person. Their estrangement is encouraged by Heraclitus when he invites these astounded ones to pass into his dwelling and join them. For here too the gods are present, he tells them, as they stand at the threshold of his dwelling. Heraclitus' evocative saying encouraged their surprise and perplexity, because it is offered in the midst of the mundane warming of his hands. Quote, "The vision of a shivering thinker offers little of interest. At this disappointing spectacle, even the curious lose their desire to come any closer." Unquote. Heidegger continues his reading of this story by asking, quote, "What are they supposed to do here? Such an everyday and unexciting occurrence. Somebody who is chilled, warming himself at a stove. Anyone can find this at home, so why look up a thinker?" Heidegger is emphasizing what he takes to be the shock of the mundane. What is happening to the visitors is not so much that they are disappointed by Heraclitus, but confused to discover the extraordinary, the thinker, in the midst of the mundane. Heidegger hears the story as being turned by the imminent departure of the strangers. Heraclitus' invitation, which was certainly a response to their hesitation, suggests to Heidegger that they were on the verge of departing. Quote, "The visitors are on the verge of going away again. Heraclitus reads the frustrated curiosity of their faces. He knows that for the crowd, the failure of an unexpected sensation to materialize is enough to make those who have just arrived leave. He therefore encourages them." Unquote. But it seems rather that the visitors were not on the verge of departing, but were, like Meno, frozen or paralyzed by their perplexity. They had been stung by Heraclitus' comportment, and in this state of immobility, Heraclitus recognizes not the expected sensation has failed to materialize, but on the contrary, that it has materialized in the most authentic and essential way. And as a result, the visitors need him to guide them over the passage to the threshold and into his dwelling. His invitation, "Here too the gods come to presence," is his way of drawing them into the shelter of his dwelling. And that's how it ends. So very quickly, before it times out on me again, I think that what's key here is that what we find with Heraclitus is, just to emphasize something I emphasized yesterday, is that the extraordinary, or the prompt to thinking, which is the extraordinary, happens in the ordinary. It happens in the mundane, and it's the shock of this moment of recognizing that it's in the very ordinary, it's in the warming of the hands by the stove, that one discovers what's extraordinary. And what is it that's extraordinary? This I don't take up here, but I think this is the question. What is it that's extra? Why is this prompt an interruption that then we call extraordinary? It's the interruption, of course, and the turning that's extraordinary, and it is this happening of it within the ordinary that is of interest and is what is compelling me to talk about. The other thing I want to just mention quickly is this movement across the threshold, and why that's so key and significant. And it's something that I first articulated in this writing and Being and Learning, and then it's become a very key and significant concept for me. And it's something I used to talk about when I talk about the threshold scholar, which is the one who kind of is in this in-between state. But I'm going to leave it at that, because this has been timing out a little bit after 9 minutes, and I don't want this to happen again, because I do have to run off to teach, and I want to make sure I get this in before then.